to the Real Estate Success Podcast, where we unlock the secrets to thriving in the competitive world of real estate. Join us as we interview industry-leading realtors who share their journeys, strategies, and lessons learned on the path to success. Be sure to tune in as we dive into the keys to building and sustaining a profitable real estate business. And now, here is your host, Leland Gross.
Welcome to the Real Estate Success Podcast, where we dive into the personal journeys behind professional success. My guest on today's podcast is Garrett Maroon, a man whose story embodies faith, grit, and purpose. From a steady W-2 role to launching a referral-based real estate business that sold over 650 homes, Garrett didn't step into entrepreneurship with a full game plan. He stepped in with borrowed belief from his wife, his business partner, and mentors who saw something in him before he saw it in himself. In this episode, Garrett opens up about the early leap into real estate. He shares what it means to go from being self-employed to becoming a true business owner, the pain of loss that shaped his mission, and how his faith fuels the 210 Collective, a national community for Christian real estate agents. Whether you're an agent in your first year or a seasoned business owner wrestling with the weight of leadership, this conversation offers clarity, encouragement, and a bold reminder that your identity isn't your title, it's how you live out your calling. Stick around through Garrett's candid story of his worst client, the lessons learned in the darkness, and how he now defines success, not just in profit, but in presence at home. With that introduction, I hope you enjoy this episode of the Real Estate Success Podcast with Garrett Maroon. All right, welcome Garrett to the Real Estate Success Podcast. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Based on our conversation before we hit record, you and I have no shortage of things to talk about. And so I'm excited for kind of how the listeners will benefit from that and what you have to say today. To start, tell the listeners about yourself personally and professionally.
Yeah, man. So, I've been married for 13 years to my beautiful wife, Rachel. We have 5 little ones that are 8, 6, 4, 2, and 3.5 months. I think I got all of those right. It's hard to remember sometimes, right? I got into real estate. I'm not from Newport News. That's where I live now. I'm from Richmond area, went to Christopher Newport University, graduated and stayed because my now wife was still in school. Got a job as an assistant director of the admission office there. And then in early 2014, my wife said, I think you'd be really good at real estate. You should get into that. We were worried. We were both working. We didn't have kids at the time, but I was only making, $40,000 a year. And we both knew that when we had kids, if Lord willing, that she wanted to come home and we wanted her to homeschool. And it was like, at $40,000 a year, I can't do that. And so I started exploring other options, right? Getting into real estate, being commission-based was pretty terrifying to me. Well, the Lord just continued to make it clear that that's what I should do, to the point where we were in Cancun on a anniversary trip. We sit down next to this random couple from Minnesota, I think, and having hibachi. And he's a real estate agent. He starts talking about how great it is. And you're like, all right, Lord, you're making this really obvious. So in middle of 2014, I made the jump. I started on a team with my now business partner, David Caggiano, but I was just an agent on his team, started there. Took me 5.5 months to make a sale. My wife and I had agreed that if I hadn't sold anything in 3 months, I would have quit. And I remember that conversation, Leland. We it's dinner that night. It's literally the 3-month mark. And I say, babe, I honestly don't know if I can figure it out, but I think I can. Can I have another 3 months? And again, in the Lord's kindness, she was working. And so we were making it, barely. And 5.5 months in, made a sale, and the rest just kind of built from there. It's been an incredible journey. I've now sold over 650 homes in the past 11 years by referral. Again, not from this area. The Lord's just been super kind in the work that we've done. Now I have a super small team, the 210 Realty Group, partnered with my buddy, and then we have a coaching and training organization called the 210 Collective. But man, it's been an incredible journey and nothing I could have ever expected. And so I'm really grateful for the time to be in real estate.
That's awesome. So, okay, backing up, your wife is the one that said, hey, I think you'd be great at real estate, which is a very specific thing to say. Like, where did she get real estate in her head?
Right.
Like, does she have a background in real estate? But then what I think is also very interesting is she said, I think you'd be great at real estate. You have 3 months. If you don't make money in 3 months, we got to go in a different direction. So where did that come from her? Like, as far as, why real estate in her mind for you? And then when she said that, obviously you said, like, we were in a place where we wanted her to stay home. That was a way to make money. But what about it stood out to you? Because there's lots of ways that you can make money to support a family. So bring me in a little bit more to that season, that conversation, because it's a big jump to say, okay, yeah, I'm not making a lot of money, but it's steady versus, okay, we're going full on self-employment. We're taking a leap into 1099 income, eat what you kill kind of uh, work, which takes a certain level of confidence, courage, in addition to the dream and vision of being able to support your family.
Yeah. So good question. I mean, well, I'll work my way backwards, but I'll start there is I absolutely believe that there's moments where you have to borrow the belief of other people,
Mm,
right? So I did not go in with confidence. I'm a confident person, but I did not go in with confidence that this was going to work. I didn't know I was an entrepreneur until like a year and a half in. I just was doing it. I'd made the leap, so I figured I should try to make it work. And so it wasn't that I thought I had business skills because I didn't have any. It wasn't that I thought I was going to be, well, I mean, I thought, I like houses, I like people, I'm good at talking to people. I didn't realize that's not the job. The job is lead generating for people, right? I mean, that's what business is. And so I didn't really know anything other than we had two friends who had gotten into real estate and were doing well. And Rachel thought your personality matches really
mm,
well with them. Maybe this is something that you should give a try. And again, in so many ways in the Lord's providence, but I look back and think that was the right time to get in. My wife was working. She was making, I don't know, 42 grand a year. So we had some money coming in. We didn't have kids at the time. The leap, right? I sat down yesterday, Leland, with a young guy who's 23 years old. He's married. His wife works. He's considering getting into real estate. And I just encourage him, man, I don't know what the Lord wants you to do, but this is the time, right? Like this
mm,
is the least risky season for you to get in because you don't have to make a ton of money. You can figure it out. And I've met so many people who wish they could do what I do now, and they could, but the leap from like, well, Garrett, I make 150 grand a year and I've got 3 kids, like to jump and start something now
mm,
would be so much more challenging. So I'm thankful that we got in when we did, but really real estate it wasn't necessarily that my wife thought specifically that's what I'd be good at. She just knew the people and said, they've done really well. Your personality is similar. And then I'd be remiss to not say David Caggiano, again, who's now my business partner, but I was starting on his team. When I met with him, I'll remember this conversation forever. I sit down with him and I say, man, I'm concerned. My parents are telling me not to do this. They've never met anybody that sold more than 7 homes in a year. And he looks at me and says, Garrett, I'm not going to let you fail. And that's my promise
mm,
to you. And so I think, again, I borrowed his belief and his confidence and trust to say, we need I was 27. We need young men who are talented and willing to work hard. And if you're willing to do those things, this career is going to work for you. And so I jumped, man. I don't know. I just did it. Oh, well, I got a job. I'll give you more detail. 2 things that happened. I got a job offer as not a property manager, but for a builder. I can't remember even which builder, but like, hey, you're going to manage this area and this building, whatever, $52,000 a year, and we'll give you a truck. I'm like, dang, dude, that's crazy amounts of money. I was making 40 or 42, whatever. And then I went to the dean of admission, who was a friend of mine. He said, how do I get to your position? He was making like 120 or something. And he said, well, you got to go get your PhD. And I'm like, well, I'm not smart enough to do that, nor do I want to go do that. So literally it was these other options that didn't exist, and look at real estate and think, okay, well, I don't know anything about business, but maybe there's a place that I can build something there. Again,
mm,
it's hard to know exactly what my thoughts were at the time, other than I had no concept of what business was, right? I wasn't a mission officer. I was a W-2. My dad's been a W-2 basically his entire career and done really well. But that's what I thought you were supposed to do. You just stay in a job for 30 years, you work your way up slowly. And for some people, that's totally okay. And for me, it was okay until something unlocked in my brain, a year and a half later. And so it's been a journey. Again, I can share anything on that, but it was not, it was accidental, sort of, right? Other than my wife said, hey, look at them. They're doing well. You could do it too. And so, okay, let's try it.
which I think there's something really profound to that, honestly. Borrowing other people's beliefs. Like we've had seasons of, you know, grief out where people are believing on our behalf.
Mhm.
And, I think there's a real piece to that to almost say, like, I don't know, but these people that I really trust are speaking into my life and they believe in me in this. And so, like, we're going to run with it. And I also think there's a place that is very real to say, I'm looking at these other people and I don't know exactly what this is going to be. I haven't read all the books on real estate. I haven't, but I'm just going to take this jump. Like I'm going to take the risk because I'm in a season of life where I can afford to take the risk. I've said this before, but I remember even just my brother when they were having kids, it was like their first son or their first child. And I asked him, like, are you nervous? Like, he's, the oldest of all the cousins. Like, no one's had a kid yet. He's like, sometimes I get nervous. And then I remember, like, other people have done this that are, like, less competent than me.
Mm.
And so I
Mm.
can, like, figure this out, like, we're going to be okay. And there's something, like, freeing when you do look and you say, like, okay, they've figured it out. And I've got a lot of similar gift sets. And, like, as long as I'm willing to show up and work hard and learn, like, we can make something of this. And I think a lot of people hold themselves back. They shrink back in fear of, the obvious. Like, what if it fails? What if it doesn't work? What if it's, way harder, and they don't actually run after the vision of, like, but what if you don't fail?
Mm.
What if this could be really great for you? And, but sometimes when we're in those places, we just need to, trust the plan, have confidence in ourselves, and, you know, take a leap, not knowing what it's going to be, but just like, hey, I'm going to go for it.
Well, I think
You
that,
said,
can I share something on that?
yeah, of
Yeah, yeah.
course.
Well, a couple thoughts, but the first one I'd share is Galatians 6:9 tells us, "For do not grow weary of doing good, for in due season you will reap if you do not give up." Right? And that's biblical, and so that's true. Another quote, actually, my wife shared this with our 8-year-old. I'd never heard it, but she said, "Winners are just losers that never gave up." Right? So are
Mm,
there going to be failure moments? Absolutely. If you're not failing, you're not trying.
mm,
My entire journey to quote unquote success in real estate has been complete failure moments over time and learning like, well, that didn't work. That didn't work. Let's not do that again. Right. That's
mhm,
fail. I mean, everybody says you got to fail your way forward, but that's totally true. And
mhm,
to your point, Leland, I had a friend of mine once tell me, he said, Garrett, there are lots of people that are living the kind of life that you'd like to live that are less smart than you. They just were willing to start. That's the only
mm,
difference, right? They were just willing to start. And
mhm,
so I do think that's what it is. I mean, I've grown now accustomed to being willing to take chances, and some of them have been really bad decisions, right? I'm not bad at making decisions, but I do make some bad decisions, right? But in the entrepreneurial world, right, especially for me as a Christian, the reality is like I have to trust that God's going to take care of me no matter where I go. No, I'm not intentionally trying to do dumb things and make bad decisions. But the reality for me is, but I am called to make decisions. And I shared this with this young guy yesterday who's thinking about real estate. I said, this is what business is like. This is how I view it. I said, business is like this. You walk into a very dark room and the door shuts behind you. There's no lights on, but there's one light switch in that room. Now, you're going to walk around and try to find that light switch. There's furniture in there. You don't know where it is. You're going to bump into that furniture. You're going to run into the wall. You're going to figure your way out. Now, there's going to be one or two people in there, hopefully, that are your mentors, right? That can tell you, hey, there's going to be a couch coming up. Why don't you step to your left, right? And then
mm,
walk forward. You're still going to run into some of that furniture. Eventually, you're going to find that light switch. You're going to turn on that light in the room and you're going to say, wow, this is what this looks like, right? This is what this was for. But then the nature of business is, unless you just stay there forever, which is not a good idea, you're going to go into another room, right? And guess what that room is? It's pitch black. You shut the door behind you. There's one light switch and you're like, all right, I got to go find that light switch. That's what business is, right? The one success moment is, oh my gosh, I finally found that light switch. But all of it is you bumping into walls and furniture until you finally get there. And so we have to understand the reality of what business is.
mm,
That's what this is. Someone said to me, it was the first time I'd ever thought about it, Leland. Someone said to me, who was a younger agent, I don't remember, this is a year or two ago, a younger agent, and I'm trying to encourage them. And they said, yeah, but you figured it out. So you know all this stuff already, right? So it's easy for you. And I said, yeah, I have been in that room before, but I'm constantly walking into new rooms trying to find the light switch. That's
mhm,
what business growth looks like, right? So I think that we have a lot of agents have a false understanding of how hard this is going to be. I certainly did, right? A false understanding of, yeah, you run into lots of problems. The only time you can't afford to fail is the last time you try. That was Charles Kettering wrote that. And so as long as you keep going, you're going to find your way to that switch and everything's going to make sense.
mhm,
Only time we fail is when we say, all right, I give up. right? That's literally what failure looks like, the ultimate failure. And so we have to have this momentum and understanding and discernment and encouragement for people to say, hey, you're in a really dark room. It's okay. I've been there before. I'm going to give you
Mhm.
some ideas on where things might be, but you have to have the grit to just go find that switch. And when you do, I promise it's going to be worth it. And you're going to
Mhm.
enjoy it for 5 seconds, and then you're going to go into another dark room, right? That's what this looks like. And I think we need to have a proper understanding. I certainly didn't, but a proper understanding of what business actually is. And to me, that's what it looks like.
Totally. I I appreciate even the way you talk about business because there's a lot of agents that, especially when they get in, they don't think of themselves in business. They think of themselves as just real estate agents. Like, that's my job. And, for a long time, I feel like many of them feel like I own my own job versus I own a business. Or, they think of themselves as employees of a team or a broker who just have to pay their own taxes and don't have benefits.
Mhm.
Which I'm like, that's kind of a crappy place. Like, if you're going to be an employee, at least get benefits,
That's
you know?
right. Absolutely. Yeah.
But you mentioned, like, it took me a year and a half or 2 years to realize even that I was entrepreneurial, that and the way you talk about it, it's so clear. Like, you've walked into that next room of, okay, I figured out the job. Now I'm in business. And, how do I think of this as a business? So can you speak to what that transition was like for you, or kind of how you began to think a little differently there than those initial days where you're like, okay, I got this guy who says I'm not going to fail and I'm just becoming a real estate agent, to, you know, now I'm in business. I'm a business owner and I have to think that way.
Yeah. So, I mean, early on for me, I went to all the classes on cold calling and door knocking and all the things, right? And I had become convinced that what I think the industry teaches, which is your only advantage in business is your willingness to hustle and work more hours.
Mm,
I, to some degree, rejected that early on and thought that can't be it because I know some people that don't work all the time and they're still winning. So there must be something else. And pretty quickly, I realized that's education, right? Like at the end of the day, business is my brain versus your brain. That's really what's going on. Now, I got to show up and do the work, right? But if I've learned the one thing that works because I read about it and I learned about it and I execute on it, whereas you don't educate yourself and you have to go try the 10 things that don't work before you find the one. Yeah. If you can't outthink me, you better outwork me, right? That's the
mhm,
equation. And so I realized that at least somewhat early on. And it was from failure moments, right? It was from, I've been 100% referral. It was from a moment where Jimmy, who I was the music team leader at our church, Jimmy, who played bass for me, shows up at a friend's birthday party with a big smile on his face. I'm early in my career, maybe 2 or 3 months in. I'm like, Jimmy, why are you so happy? And he says, Garrett, I just bought a house. And then his face drops. He's like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. I totally forgot. You're a real estate agent. And I was like, it's fine. You just can't be on worship team anymore. No, I'm kidding. But I was like, Jimmy, dude, I'm excited for you. This is good. This is right. Like, this is a great thing. It wasn't Jimmy's fault. It was my fault. But I had to go figure that out, right? What I've done, I think, well, in my career is when I've had those failure moments, I haven't just said, oh, that's terrible. I've actually gone to try to figure out why did that happen? And I figured it out, right? And it was, oh my gosh, now that I'm understanding things in a new way. Man, Albert Einstein said, you can't solve problems at the same level of thinking that created them. So if
mm,
I'm running into problems, it's because the same level of thinking still exists. I got to go learn something new. So as I started to educate myself and grow and really get in and take that seriously, I was reading a minimum of 1 hour a day during work. As I was taking that seriously and educating myself, it's when I started to realize, wait, this is what a business owner looks like, right? They're thoughtful. They think ahead. Not that I always do that, right? But I don't always build the plane while it's in the air. Sometimes I actually do it in advance, right? It's understanding how these higher level people think. Again, it's my brain versus your brain. My brain at the time, at the beginning, wasn't even entrepreneurial. It wasn't business minded by any means. I just did what people around me did. And yeah, we were pretty similar. The ages that came in with me, we did about the same amount of business. But after the compounding effect of learning for 2 years in a row for 250 plus hours a year, man, my business started growing really fast. So to come back and answer your question, I read a book from Robert Kiyosaki, right? The guy who wrote
mhm,
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
mhm,
read the Cash Flow Quadrant, which is an amazing book. And in the Cash Flow Quadrant, he talks about the quadrant is the E, S, and then BI on the right side, right? E is employee, S is self-employed, B is business owner, I is investor. I'm sure you know that. But for those who don't, the S is the self-employed. That's what most agents are. Well, we're the most taxed people in the entire country, right? Which you know that better than anybody. And so I realized, like, I don't want to be on that side. His whole pitch is you got to get to the business owner side and the investor side if you want to actually earn enough income, if you want to be tax advantaged, right? All the things that you know, and everybody should reach out to you and find that out, right? Get help in that way. But the reality was I started to realize, well, hold on, I can't stay on this self-employed side. I've got to get to the business owner side. I didn't know what I was doing, but like anything, I was a year and 9 months into the team that I'd started on. I realized I got to get to this business owner side. And so I left the team. I hired my first admin, hired my first agent, and I had no idea what I was doing, right? It was a room and I had to find the light switch. And it took me a while to do that. But all I knew was I have to get on this side. And if I wait until I've figured everything out, which isn't possible, right? You got to actually act and understand it, feel, and all the things. If I wait until I've tried to figure it out, I'm going to be stuck in the S side as self-employed, paying way too much money to the government for a really long time. So I'm do it. I'm just going to go do it and figure it out once I get there, right? Long story, but that's really what started to happen for me. And then I jumped into it and made, again, a ton of mistakes, but just figured it out as I went along. And at least I was finally in the right seat. And so I was thankful for that. Now it's okay. I'm in the right seat. Now what do I do?
Quick pause. Hey, realtors, if you're earning great commissions, but worried you might be missing something financially, we built a tool just for you. It's our free 2-minute real estate financial health assessment. Don't wait until tax season exposes your financial gaps. In just a couple minutes, you'll see exactly what's strong in your business, where money might be slipping through the cracks, and what to fix before your next closing. Most agents have blind spots they never even think to check. You don't have to be one of them. Just head to realestatesuccesspod.com and get your personalized score and insights in 2 minutes or less. All right, back to the episode.
The very first thing, Leland, I'll share this real quick, but hired an assistant. 2 weeks came and she was like, hey, I didn't get paid. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to set up payroll. I didn't know that this is no one had ever taught me those things. Like, oh, I should go figure that out. You're right. I need to pay you. Right. So you just don't know what you don't know. You're in a dark room, but it's okay. You get comfortable there and you realize that's fine. At least I'm in the right seat, not stuck in the S seat anymore. I'm actually in the B seat and I'm really glad about that.
Totally. I love that. I really do love the ESBI quadrant because it does show a progression of, especially in the self-employed. Some people stay employee forever and that's their gift set and that's where they should be because that's their best place.
No doubt.
But I feel like so much of my work is pointing out like, hey, you're self-employed. That gives you a lot of freedom, but it also affords you the most taxes in the country. And so we would like to move you to the business owner side where we can kind of work that out because it takes new hats. You have to be able to like unlock those areas of your brain. I would love to hear more about, you talked about your team, the 210 Collective, and then also the training program. So, because that feels like the next evolution of, okay, I came in under my mentor. Now mentor is business partner. And now we're building this kind of 210 community. So tell us more about that.
Yeah. So, and again, a shout out for you guys, right, is go talk to Leland and his team. One of the shifts that happened for me, so I got on the business owner side. I didn't even understand tax liability very well, wasn't set up as an S Corp, right, in the file and the way I was doing. And as soon as someone taught me to do that, couple years in, it saved me like 15 grand right away. And it was, what am I doing? It's all these dumb taxes because I just don't know better. You need to talk to somebody like Leland. No joke. That's a free pitch for you, but I absolutely agree with that, right? A good financial planner is going to save you way more money than you ever pay them. So let's just make good decisions with our money, right? Be good stewards of that. But so what we shifted, so what happened for me was I started a team in 2016. I got in 2014, started a team in 2016, had a bunch of iterations of that, right? As again, I just failed my way forward, made a bunch of terrible decisions, and then went and made the exact same decision multiple times. Like, what am I doing? Right? Like, I'm a terribly stubborn learner sometimes. But finally landed on an amazing A+ agent named Jesse Hutchison, who's my lead agent. And it gave me the freedom to step out of production almost fully, right? So now Jesse does all of our transactions, about 60 a year. He handles all of the day-to-day. It's a great opportunity for him and his family. It frees me up significantly. We've got one TC, one transaction coordinator, and Jesse. Frees me up significantly to now go focus on building out other things, right? My heart shifted in October 2022. Excuse me. My mom passed away early October 2022 from breast cancer, and she loved Jesus, and so she's with him, and praise God for that, right? But that rocked me. I mean, it did. And so I spent the next 3 months, really, Leland. My reaction to that was sitting there and asking God, okay, who do you want me to serve? Like, I really love my real estate team, but I think there's more. Who do you want me to serve? And for me, it became really clear it was meant to be Christian real estate agents. And so I shifted in beginning of 2023 to focus on serving those particular agents. I'd love to help anyone, right? But that just became my particular passion. And so I started a nonprofit called The Faithful Agent for Christians in Real Estate. We started that podcast where you've been a guest on, right? And we're a lot of episodes in. Excuse me. And through that experience, what happened was I was at Keller Williams at the time, still love Keller Williams very, very much. Will never say anything negative because it was an amazing experience. But I'm at Keller Williams, and the story is a lot of these agents who had gotten into the Faithful Agent, they came up to me and they're like, Garrett, we want to be in business with other Christian agents, right? We want to be in business with people who have the same values that we do. And these were agents in, Wyoming and Texas and Colorado. And they're like, how do we get into business together? And will you start a Faithful Agent brokerage? And I was like, number one, all my friends that own brokerages told me it's not worth doing. So I don't want to do that. And then number two, I don't even know if Fair Housing would let me say I started a brokerage for Christians, right? Christian agents. Again, I work with any client, right? I'll serve anybody. That's good. But we were trying to build a culture specifically of agents that were believers. And so I told him, I'm sorry, I had a coaching company at the time. If you need coaching, I'd love to help, but I hated asking people for money or listen to the podcast, come to the events. Fast forward to 2024, my buddy Dave Caggiano again, he had left and gone to EXP. And this is not an EXP pitch at all, but this is just the story. He leaves and goes to EXP. We're sitting down and having coffee, and he'd been trying to get me to come for 3 years. I was like, dude, I'm genuinely so happy at Keller Williams. But he comes to me and I'm telling him my struggle. And like, man, I believe I'm called to serve the Christian real estate agent, but I can't do it in the current capacity. And I don't know what to do. And so that was the moment he said, this is why you should come to EXP, because we can create essentially a global quasi brokerage for Christian agents specifically, and we can train them, we can help, and we don't have to charge them a dime. And so that was what was the spark for me. So I immediately shifted over right within a couple weeks. We launched the 210 Collective for Ephesians 210, and I just started pouring in resources. So I went from having a coaching company where I charge people to now I don't charge anyone anything. If they come inside the 210 Collective, they get it all for free. And it's such a beautiful win-win. It's such a beautiful collaboration to do this with other Christian agents literally around the globe. We have an agent in Puerto Rico. I didn't tell her, I don't know where that is, but I'm glad that she's here because now we're global, right? We have agents from all over, and we get to serve them. We get to be in community with one another, and it's just created this really cool opportunity to serve. So long story, but that's where that came from. I just decided I want to go all in for Christians, and I'm going to be really honest with who I am. My faith, in anybody listening, whether you believe in Jesus or not, now I'd love to have that conversation with you, right? But whether you believe in Jesus or not, who you are, your identity, right, is not a backpack that you take on and off, right? I can't say, well, here's my backpack and I believe in Jesus. And actually later I'm going to put on my backpack as a real estate agent and later as a dad, and later as a husband, whatever. Like, this is who you are. And so we need to stop as an industry pretending that we're just agents and as if we're just this random neutral blob that doesn't have any feelings or anything, right? And actually show up and be authentic to who we are. And so for me, that was, man, I'm a Christian first, and I'm an agent, not second, like fifth, right? Because I'm a dad and a husband and all those things. But I'm a Christian agent. And so I'm just going to lead with those things. If you guys don't like it, that's okay. I'm genuinely not offended. But I'd encourage them to say, whoever you are, lead with that. It's okay. Let's stop hiding of these things. And so, man, that was really kind of the evolution. Started with mom passing and spent about a year just praying through it. And then other people come in and say, hey, we need this. And it was, all right, Lord, what do you need me to do from that? And so, man, that was really the evolution of how the 210 Collective came about.
It's amazing. I love it. So from day one, like your wife's like, I think you'd be great at this, to now running the 210 Collective, having been, a coach for real estate agents and very successful yourself, a top producer. What has surprised you the most about this journey through self-employment, business, real estate?
I mean, so many things. I think the easy answer that we all hear is it's way harder and takes way longer than you ever think, which that's
Mm,
definitely true. But I would say probably the most surprising was, and I think this is a quote from Dave Ramsey, but he said, here's the truth about your business. You're the problem, but you're
mm,
also the solution. And so I think as I started to learn that maybe 2, 3, 4 years in and realized all these problems have nothing to do with anyone but me, that was surprising. That was hard to say, all right, the reason the business is stuck is because I'm stuck, right? The reason that so-and-so is struggling in their role is because I'm struggling to lead them effectively. And so I think once I started to take real ownership of those things, it was really hard. It was very surprising, right? I thought I just get to show up and do the fun things. Well, that's not true. You got to do the work on yourself. You can't stay put. I think that was really hard and that was really surprising. It's not just about being a people person. There's
mm,
so many more skills that are required that you've got to latch on to yourself, right? If you're my son does Trail Life, which is like a Christian Boy Scout version,
mm,
right? And it's like you go and you get patches along the way, like, hey, you did this, you did that. That's what being a good business owner is too. I don't have any patches. And then I got to go, oh, I learned that one. Let me get this patch, right? It's called whatever, financial management, whatever it is. And so that was really surprising. I didn't realize how much I had to level up. And now I'm fully aware of how much more I need to level up,
yeah.
right? And so but that was surprising for me, right? Again, not having a business owner in mind, that was really surprising.
And what would you say is the low point for you in the journey? Was
Man.
there a low point?
Oh, I mean, so many. I'll tell you this real quick. My very first deal ever, Leland, my team leader, Dave, at the time, handed me, I had no deals. And he goes, Garrett, I got a slam dunk referral for you. It's this 20-year-old kid named Simon. I won't say his last name. 20-year-old kid named Simon. We go look at like 50 houses. We're finally under contract. We're like a week away from closing. We've done the appraisal. We've done the inspection. We've done all the things. Well, I get a call from him at like 10:30 at night, which I would never answer now, but I did because I was just needed to sell something, right? Excuse me. And Simon is just livid on the other line. And he goes, Garrett, and he's not mad at me because Garrett, you need to call them, the sellers right now. And you need to tell them they need to drop their price 20 grand or I'm walking away. Right. And I was like, well, hold on, Simon. And I said, I don't think we can do it. And at the time I really didn't know. I was like, I don't think you can do that. Right. I'll find that out. I don't think you can do it. He said, Garrett, if they won't do it, I'm going to the papers. And he hangs up. I'm like, what does that even mean? It's 2014, right? Like the internet's doing real good at this point, but
Simon is a bold 20-year-old.
right, exactly. Yeah. So I get up the next morning and I get a call from his mom. Now, his mom's in California, okay? But it's like 7 a.m. our time. So it's like 4 a.m. for her. And she is just so upset. I don't even know what about, right? But she's just backing up her son. Okay, hey, don't worry. I'm going to call the other agent. So I get in the office. Thankfully, I'm sitting there with Dave because I told him what was going on. Like, I need your help. And so I get on the phone with this other agent. I put it on speakerphone and I tell him, I was like, I don't know. This is crazy. But he said, you need to drop the price 20 grand or he's going to the papers. And the guy just starts cussing me out, right? And he's like, no way that's going to happen, whatever. And I'm like, I get it, right? Why don't you talk to your people and I'll talk to my person? Well, so we hang up. About 10 minutes later, I get a call back from that agent. And he says, Garrett, your buyer just called me directly and told me he talked to his Harvard lawyer friend and he's going to sue me. I'm like, about what? Nothing's even happened yet, right? And so he said, Garrett, I need you to know I'm countersuing him and we're going to go to court. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is happening here? Right. And so this whole thing goes, everybody's cussing each other out. I'm stuck in the middle. Simon keeps talking about going to the papers, which again, nobody knows what that means. And they're going to sue each other. Right. And so eventually it's just the seller decides, all right, we're just not going to do anything. We're going to hold your earnest money deposit. Simon's like, I keep fighting for his earnest money deposit, but they at least let him out of the contract, right? And so long story short, I finally go to Simon and I remember very clearly, I'm in the car with Dave and my buddy Zach, who is an agent. And I was like, guys, what do I do? And they said, you need to drop him as a client, right? Like, this is a terrible situation that you're in. And I was like, this is my first client ever. This is supposed to be my first deal. And I remember texting him. I was too terrified to talk to him, texting him and just saying, Simon, I don't know if I'm the right agent for you anymore, buddy. I'm going to make sure that I stay with you until we resolve the earnest money deposit, but I think you should find another agent. And all he texted back is, that sounds good. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm out of it. But that was like my first quote unquote deal. And I
Gosh.
remember thinking, there is like, if this is what this is about, I do not want to do this, because that was insane. Thankfully, I've only had one other deal of the 650 that was that crazy. But man, as a brand new agent, getting cussed out by everybody and
Oh my gosh.
having to go to the pay, oh my gosh, it was
I'm impressed you're
rough.
still here.
It was rough. Me too. Man, me too. It was still in that 3-month window, Leland. So I think that's why it was like, hey, I still have time to get this done. Yeah, right. We're going to be fine. Was a crazy, and saying that, I need to look to see if I still have his phone number. Like, I wonder what he's up to now. I'm not going to go find out, but I hope that Simon's
Check
doing
the
okay.
papers, man. I'm sure the papers have it.
Right. Yeah, he's some sort of award-winning journalist because he's obsessed with the papers. Oh man, that was a low point for sure. I didn't even have a high point, so I didn't know how low it was.
Yeah.
But that was a low point for sure.
Luckily you started from the bottom.
Well, you're right. Yeah. Only way. That's what Dave always says, because I give Dave a really hard time. We lead masterminds and stuff together, and I always give Dave a hard time. I'm like, look, I'm so grateful for Dave. I call him out in the book, right? He's just been such a blessing in my life and my family's life. But I'm like, but here's my warning to you guys: never take a lead from him ever. If he says it's a slam dunk, it's not. He gave me the worst possible deal ever, and I love that story now. As like that was the first thing he handed me. Like, thanks for the support, buddy. Fantastic.
Oh, man. Well, this is a podcast about success. But if you poll people on the street and just say, how do you define success? You're going to get a different answer from each person. So
100%.
For you, how do you define success?
Yeah. Great question, man. It is absolutely personal to everybody. We need to reject the industry's definition is only about number of deals and volume and GCI and all the things. So for me, I keep my own scoreboard. And so I have a profit goal, but I also have a wife goal and I have a kid goal. So my wife goal is 2 day dates a month. My kid goal is every 7th week off, my family goal. And so for me now, success is not, did I hit that financial goal? It's, did I hit that financial goal while still hitting those other goals? I have a new way to make decisions, right? If someone calls me and says, I need you to do this, and I look and say, well, it hits the financial goal, I can still take my wife on a date, but it's right in the 7th week off. I told you, right? Pre-show, we just got back from Orlando. The answer is no. I can't be, I want you to come speak. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Right. If there's a different day, whatever. So man, I'm fully recognize that taking every 7th week off doesn't make me a good dad, right? Or 2 day dates doesn't make me a good husband, but I needed measurable things to look and say, life is so much more than this, right? When my mom passed away, now she wasn't a real estate agent, but when my mom passed away every single year, so just a couple weeks ago, she passed away October 4th. We go and visit where she was buried, right? Me and my brother and his family and my family and my dad. And then we go out to a French restaurant. She was a French teacher. But here's what it doesn't say on her headstone, right? It doesn't say taught 50 classes in French and 1,000 students, right? That would have been good. Don't hear me wrong. It says loved Jesus, right? Loving wife and mother and grandmother. Nana is what she was called. And then it has a scripture verse. My point in saying that is what I realized a couple years ago is on my headstone, it's not going to have my real estate stat sheet, right? It's not going to say Garrett sold 1,000 houses for $2 million of GCI, whatever it is. It's not going to say that. But most of us get obsessed with it. And that's all we spend our time thinking about. It's going to hopefully say follower of Jesus, great husband, great dad, right? Great grandfather at hopefully, Lord willing, at some point. And have a scripture verse. That's my hope. And so if that's true, are we in pursuit of what we hope the end game is? And I learned that, and I constantly have to relearn that. But man, when you talk about success, what's the end game? What's going to be on the headstone? What are you in pursuit of? And I think when we understand that, we work our way backwards. It does change the way that we keep score, changes the way we make decisions on a day-to-day basis.
It's awesome. Garrett, you are inspiring. I love getting to talk to you.
Yeah, same here.
If a listener wanted to find you, where would they go?
Man, they can, just go to Instagram, Garrett Maroon, at Garrett Maroon. I think that's what it is. I'll double check that. Or I guess you can text me too. So 804-878 2200. Genuinely, man, my heart is for the industry, yes, but it's for the industry's families. Like I'm on a mission to restore the real estate agent family because we're missing too many dinners, we're missing too many important moments, and there's a better way to build your business that allows you to be home. So if any agent's struggling with that, like legitimately, please reach out. I want to help because I care about your kids sitting there waiting for daddy or mommy to come home. And if I can be helpful in that, I'd love to.
It's amazing. And we'll put all that in the show notes as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for being here today. Listeners, thanks for tuning into the Real Estate Success Podcast. If you're ready to see how well your real estate business is supporting the life you actually want, you can work with Garrett Maroon. You can also head over to peacelinkfp.com and take our financial health check. It's a 2-minute quiz that gives you personal insights into your tax strategy, cash flow, investments, and overall just financial efficiency, both personally and professionally. You walk away knowing where you're strong and where a few adjustments could make a big difference. But with that, thanks for being on here today. Thanks for listening and sharing your story, Garrett. And
100%. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Success Podcast. Before you go, a quick reminder. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as tax, legal, or investment advice. The opinions shared by me or any of my guests are just that, their opinions. So if you're thinking about applying anything from today's episode to your life or business, I encourage you to consult a qualified professional who understands your unique situation and goals. If you want to take the next steps, check out the links in the show notes or go to realestatesuccesspod.com to complete our 2-minute financial health assessment. Or you can book a free call with us at PeaceLink Financial Planning or just get in touch. We would love to hear from you. Now, go forth, forge your path, and prosper.